From Music City, USA, it's David Hooper and Music Business Radio.
From Nashville, Tennessee, it's Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the music business. I'm your host, David Hooper, and with me today, musician, singer, songwriter Kyle Andrews. You've heard his music in ads for Holiday Inn, Doritos, Dell Computer. He's been on TV, too. Numerous television shows, as a matter of fact, including Grey's Anatomy. His album, Robot Learn Love, is available wherever records are sold. Kyle, welcome to Music Business Radio.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Some people may not have heard the name. They certainly, if they watch TV, they've seen this Holiday Inn commercial.
Yeah.
Because that was everywhere.
It was.
So let's play a sample. That Holiday Inn song was called You Always Make Me Smile. Kyle Andrews on Music Business Radio.
I like your messy hair. I like the clothes you wear. I like the way you sing. And when you dance with me.
You Always Make Me Smile, Kyle Andrews on Music Business Radio. So that was a huge ad for Holiday Inn. Big ad campaign, went on for a while. And I got to say, Holiday Inn is getting hip thanks to you. I mean, I remember back in the 70s and 80s, you'd see these huge neon signs with a little arrow and the star there. Right. And we're going to talk about how that all came together and what that is like, because you've had a lot of film and TV licensing success. But first, let's talk about how you got your start. You were born in Chicago.
Yeah, just outside of Chicago, Illinois, in the suburbs, LaGrange Park. I wasn't a part of much of a music scene there, so that was kind of the start of me in my room writing songs and recording. And
did you take lessons? Was it something that was taught in school, or just like a neighborhood kid had a guitar and you wanted one?
This would date me, but it was kind of just the break of Nirvana and Pearl Jam and just a lot of exciting guitar rock stuff. So I saw that and just, especially Nirvana songs, hearing those, it seemed simple enough. It seemed like something I might be able to figure out how to do. So, yeah, I just wanted that electric guitar.
So then what? You see Nirvana. Where do you start after that?
I don't know how it really came together, but, the big start for me in really piecing together music was getting a hold of a 4-track cassette recorder and just learning what it sounds like when you layer your voice on top of your voice and do harmonies and lay a lead guitar part on top of your rhythm part. That was the start of just that exploration. There wasn't a lot of lessons or anything. It was just kind of goofing around until it sounded good.
Would you say it was kind of just maybe an outlet for creativity more than I'm going to be Kurt Cobain someday?
Yeah, I didn't really have any concept. It was just passing time, and it became a hobby and something fun, You start out playing sports, and then you find the guitar and forget all about baseball or basketball. And I guess there's always a fantasy element of it. It never crossed my mind hey, this is what I'm going to do as a job.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they realize that it's possible, but it's possible for other people, not for them.
Sure.
So when did you kind of make that transition, and when did it all start to come together for you?
Honestly, when I moved to Nashville, I met some people that were themselves. They were in a band, this band called Llama. They were on the radio, and they were out doing festivals, and they were on MCA Records at the time. So that was my first experience meeting anybody, a peer of mine that was doing that thing that I would love to be doing. So that suddenly made it seem just at least within the realm of possibility.
And why did you move to Nashville? Was that music or college? Or
No, it was definitely just music and friends. Again, back home, I didn't have a community of musicians. And so, it was a real eye-opener, just coming down here and just meeting, it's just everyone you bump into is doing music. They're a songwriter, or they're in a band, or they play for sessions or something. It was pretty profound for me to all of a sudden be a part of a community that's loved and respected on a daily basis. It just is what people do.
We broadcast the show. Obviously, we're here in Nashville today, broadcast out of Nashville, but I think it's something that, a lot of people don't get. It really is special, isn't it?
Yeah, I've lived in a few cities, but spent the most time now, outside of back home here in Nashville, and it is unique. There's such a rich history, obviously with country music and all that, but there's so much more beyond that. Like, I mean, there's just lots of great independent artists, you know, singer-songwriter stuff, or rock bands, or electro bands. There's a lot of variety.
So you got the mentors in Llama.
Yeah.
And did you just ask them, hey, look, I want to do what you're doing? Because you've had record deals, you've turned down record deals, and I want to try to get up to that point. And I mean, it's not like you're just some guy. You're very humble, but you're doing all right.
Again, I didn't have a sense of, it just all seemed like magic, or that there must be some sort of secret process you go through to try to become an artist.
Like that one guy who can flip the switch and all of a sudden you're famous.
Well, my friend Ben Morton, he was a singer in Llama. I remember one of the first questions he asked me was like, well, what do you want to do here? And I said, I want to record. And he said, well, you already did. You know, so that was one of those things where it's just like, I think when you're starting out, you're searching for some sort of acceptance or somebody to validate and put a stamp on, like, hey, you're doing it now, you know, kind of thing. But it really is, you just go and do it. You just got to go and make music, and you pass it around to friends. And if it's any good, or if people happen to think it's good, hopefully, you know, you get noticed. But that transition, I mean, it was pretty organic in the sense of there wasn't some magic moment where it's like, okay, now I'm doing this for a living, or I think that I should. It was just hanging out with friends, making music, and passing it around and trying to be excited about it. So. You're
listening to Music Business Radio. I'm your host, David Hooper. With me today, Kyle Andrews. His album, Robot Learn Love, available wherever records are sold. How long did it take before you were actually making a living in music? I mean, I assume you came here and probably worked odd jobs like a lot of people.
Yeah. I worked at a juice bar for a long time. Like, I mean, 4 or 5 years. And another unique thing about Nashville is, like, you get people coming in that, like, Keith Urban would come in and want a carrot juice. It's like, okay, well, it's a little, I mean, that's kind of surreal, but that is definitely like a unique Nashville experience, you know, like Emmylou Harris needing some coffee from me or something.
Also unique is your sound, and earlier on you mentioned electro, and I think of you as kind of like singer-songwriter meets electro.
Right. Well,
how did you come up with a unique sound?
I mean, that stems from just, that stems from being alone and just playing with drum machines and keyboards. Certainly, like, there's a sound you get if you get a group of people in a room and play live instruments. There's a more organic sound you get. Just trying to recreate that as one person, as like a solo producer, doesn't sound very interesting. You just think to yourself, well, this would sound better if I had 4 people in a room playing. You gravitate towards other sounds, other unique things that you couldn't get with those 4 people in a room. So I'm definitely lost in that world of just production and just searching for different interesting sounds, and it's a lot of fun. It's like painting. It's like producing like a Star Wars sci-fi movie. I enjoy being creative in a space, like making a sound that just could never really happen in real life.
Let's play some of those sounds.
Okay.
What do you think exemplifies the Kyle Andrews sound?
Sushi, I think, is a good example of just, in some ways, there is a connection between something like that and You Always Make Me Smile that's more organic. There's that connection on a personal level from the lyrics and the topics, but the space it's living, like, the sounds are much different, much more electro.
So Sushi, it's on an album called Real Blasty, also available wherever records are sold. Sushi by Kyle Andrews on Music Business Radio.
Pillowcase blue, and I say ocean. I'm a pillowcase blue, and I sink so deep in you. You gonna save me or not? You gonna save me or not? You gonna save me or not? Could we have a moment? Could we have a moment? It feels so real. I'm taking out a rough song, I'm painting on the wall. It feels so real. It feels so real.
Kyle Andrews on Music Business Radio. The song Sushi, the album Real Blasty, available wherever records are sold. When we come back, going to talk to Kyle about his songwriting and recording process. More from Kyle Andrews on Music Business Radio.
This is Fett from Azalea Studios and Performing Songwriter Magazine.
Hey, this is Chris DeTrey from Drive Artist Management.
Hi, this is Chris Palmer with Take Six Management.
Hi, my name's Greg Bissonette. I'm a Los Angeles touring and studio drummer. You're listening to Music Business Radio.
Lightning 100 is proud to once again sponsor Our Kids Soup Sunday. This year's Ford Our Kids Soup Sunday, presented by U.S. Foods, will be held at LP Field inside Club Level West on Sunday, February 26th. From 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., 50 local restaurants will vie for the title of Favorite Soup. Join us and sample all the food to be judged. Lots of great food, family entertainment, and all for a great cause. Tickets for Ford Our Kids Soup Sunday are available right now for a discount at OurKidsCenter.com. Tickets will also be available at the door. For more information, call Our Kids at 341-4917 or visit OurKidsCenter.com.
Everything's gonna be alright. Rockabye, rockabye, rockabye.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Mullins. The most important thing I've learned since being in the music business is sticking to your guns and doing what you love to do. And you're listening to Music Business Radio.
This is Music Business Radio from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm David Hooper. With me today, Kyle Andrews. You've heard his music in ads for Holiday Inn, Doritos, and Dell Computers. His album, Robot Learn Love, is available wherever records are sold. I want to talk about songwriting with you. You've got some pretty cool titles. Kangaroo.
Right.
Sushi. You know, and it's not what people think about when they think about like a Nashville songwriter, right? I mean, let's just talk about the songwriting process and inspiration. Obviously, it comes from everywhere, I would imagine.
Oh, certainly. For me, like songwriting and recording and even like record making are very much the same process. That's something that just comes from recording at home. It's just not separate process, you know, like I'll start off with maybe a keyboard idea or a drum sound, and that just gets you going. Hopefully, like when it's working right, lyrics come to you and melodies come, and it just kind of all comes together in a pretty, you know, quick moment.
You talked about record making. Are you thinking about the full album and not just like, I've got to have a single, got to have a single?
For Robot Learn Love, that's the first time I really tried to think, okay, I want these 10 songs to be cohesive. I want it to feel like an album. I want you to listen all the way through and it just really gel. In the past, I've been guilty of just kind of genre hopping, or because it's so free, the writing's so free that, you know, it doesn't bother me if this song's electro or that song's an acoustic thing. Like, I feel like most people just sort of listen to it all. But for this album, I very much tried to make it a piece that everything went together. So that was kind of my first time crafting, in a sense, like, okay, well, maybe this song won't work with these other guys, and we'll pull this one in and work on it.
How did Nashville affect your songwriting? I mean, a lot of people, when they come to Nashville, you know, it's a business here. There's a lot of co-writes, and
Right.
They think of a catchy title, and they work a song around to match that title. How did that affect you?
That's a good question. I certainly something I'm aware of. You know, I know other people who work like that. I have lots of friends that are in that sort of business, and I've been set up on a couple of dates like that and tried to go through that process. But for me, it's just so foreign. I write at home, and I just, when it comes to me, it comes to me, and I go and I record it. Usually that'll be in the same day. So the idea of sitting down and writing something with someone and then just waiting and not knowing, okay, well, what will this even sound like, or who's going to sing this song? That's just really foreign to me. Certainly, I'm interested in pursuing that at some point, but I see the writing and the recording as one thing. It's like they're so partnered together for me that it's difficult to imagine it another way.
Well, that's something to note, too. You're not trying to get your songs pitched to other artists, which that's what a lot of the writers here do.
Right.
But something that you are doing, and doing very well, is you're having a lot of sync licenses, a lot of film and TV music, and a lot of advertising. So has that affected you at all? Now that you've had some success with like Holiday Inn, Dell Computer, Doritos, are you thinking, well, that might be kind of a cool jingle for Sprint? Or
I mean, I have no idea what would be a good jingle for anybody, really. Like, I've been lucky enough to just write songs that I was going to write regardless of who was going to listen. And I like pop songs, so that's a leg up. I'm writing in a way where hopefully somebody's going to think this is something they want to sing along to and they enjoy. So I've just been lucky in that anytime I've had these opportunities, it's been somebody reaching out and saying, hey, this thing you already had would be super it would go against this image or in this scene. And that's so much easier than trying to write specifically for some brand or for a scene. I mean, that's difficult for me to look at something and say, okay, well, this would be perfect with this thing. So,
have you thought about what would happen? You've got a song, I love the title. It's called Laser Tag with Imaginary Friends.
Right.
What if McDonald's came up to you and they said, hey, I'd like you to change that to Big Macs and a value meal with imaginary friends? I mean, have you thought about that? I mean, how do you keep the artistic integrity of a song with the commercialism of a commercial?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a line. Sorry, I'm trying to imagine how that song would go. But, I mean, something like, again, like I've never had to change a lyric or even try to write a lyric to something specific like that. So I've never had to feel that sting of like, oh, like I'd compromise the artistic process for this money or something. Like it's just never come to that, which I think everybody probably has their own standard, like where that line is, what they're willing to do as work. But artistically, just to be able to write and do what you're going to do anyway is makes it fun. So
you're listening to Music Business Radio. I'm David Hooper, your host, and with me today, Kyle Andrews is a musician, singer, songwriter. His album, Robot Learn Love. Anytime you put music out, you're going to open yourself up to criticism. Mm-hmm. And you talked about, you being comfortable with doing these deals, but have you had criticism or even, people that are happy about you being in commercials from fans?
That whole concept it's just a really different landscape where people are used to hearing their music now. I mean, there's just not as many labels putting out and really promoting the heck out of new artists. I mean, so people are used to hearing a new artist on a TV show or on a commercial. I don't think it's the kind of awkward thing that it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something that we don't have a lot of now is jingles.
Right.
And it used to be kind of a big deal when something was licensed, and now everything is licensed.
Yeah.
So, Kyle, we have a lot of musicians that listen to the show, and I'm sure they've seen the Holiday Inn ad and heard the Holiday Inn ad and the other things that you've been on. They're wondering, how does this happen? So any tips for somebody who's trying to break into the film and TV licensing business?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it started with putting out albums. Like, those people that do those jobs, they're basically a filter, and they're hearing so much music. I mean, they're hearing so many songs. I mean, it's just unbelievable. If I've got 10 songs on my record and they've got 1,000 artists that they're listening to searching for songs, it's unbelievable what those odds are. But you have to be in the game. Like, you have to put something out, whether it's on a small label or a big label or just self-release. Like, you have to put in the legwork to promote yourself and have people hear it. That's really the only way to be heard is just to put it out there and try.
Well, it's a great point. I mean, I know there's probably some kid in a bedroom right now who's amazing, but if we don't know he exists, might as well not exist.
It's all theoretical, and hey, like, I've got these songs and I think they're good, or my friend thinks they're cool. But once you make it official and say, okay, this is officially what I'm putting out into the world, like, you're open to criticism or you're open to praise, and it's just out there, and you have to take that step.
That can be very scary, especially now with something like YouTube, for example. Let's say you upload a video and 5 minutes later there's people critiquing it, right?
Sure.
And they can be pretty snarky. So how do you deal with the instant feedback that you're getting from people?
It's really interesting. I mean, that's definitely, it's an exciting time. Like, For You Always Make Me Smile, because it was, people were familiar with it through the Holiday Inn spot. And then we did it was the world's largest water balloon fight for the music video.
Which is brilliant, by the way. Everybody should go to YouTube and check that out. It was an incredible video.
It was a lot of fun. It was a unique experience getting hit with 120,000 water balloons.
Guitar got a little wet.
Yeah, that thing was soaked. But there's thousands and thousands of comments. Like, for whatever reason, like, people responded to that. And overwhelmingly, like, the response is really positive. Like, hey, that looks like fun. I wish I was there. And then you get other people that, for whatever reason, just don't like that you were doing that, or they don't like the song. And I used to keep up with all that stuff more because you're just curious what the feedback is. But at the same time, there's only so much you can absorb of, like, other people's energy and feedback. I focus on what the positive responses are. I've gotten amazing emails from people that they share their personal story, like, okay, what does this song mean to them in their life? And it's so much more than I ever imagined, when I'm sitting there playing guitar. So, yeah, it's a fun and exciting time to just get that feedback. But at the same time, you are putting yourself out there, and, everybody in the world can just write back that they're not digging it or, whatever.
So, Kyle, you put the record out. You've gotten the feedback, good and bad. Then what? What's the next step to Holiday Inn national ad campaign?
Basically, I had a few records out and just kind of getting stuff passed around to different people. And, there was a licensing company called Terrorbird that got a hold of my previous work and then heard this song. And they helped connect the dots with the Holiday Inn people and really turn it into a unique thing where the agency really wanted to help make a video and help promote me as an artist, so that it kind of had legs outside of just seeing the spot on TV. They were music fans themselves and wanted to be a part of helping break an artist that's unknown. But that in-between spot, like somebody like a Terrorbird, it's a group that is just really good at what they do, and that's their job, is to know lots of different songs by lots of different artists. So finding something like that, it's just as difficult as finding the right band members or the right producer or even the right song. Like, you got to find somebody that really loves what you're doing and believes in it and understands it and is going to give it a shot.
And that doesn't always happen. I know for you, you've actually turned record deals down. When we come back, I want to know why. That's like the holy grail for musicians for a lot of them. You turned a couple down. We want to know why. David Hooper here, Music Business Radio. Kyle Andrews is my guest. His album, Robot Learn Love, is available now. We're going to go out with something from Robot Learn Love. This is Bombs Away on Music Business Radio.
What's coming next?
everybody. I'm Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters. You're listening to Music Business Radio.
Tedeschi Trucks Band. Live.
I'm gonna learn how to love.
The fiery vocals of Susan Tedeschi and the unparalleled solos of Derek Trucks. A performance not to be missed. April 29th, Ryman Auditorium. The new album, Revelator, that Rolling Stone calls a masterpiece. 4 out of 5 stars. Available now. Tedeschi Trucks Band. An 11-piece ensemble of extraordinary talent. April 29th, Ryman Auditorium. Reserved seat tickets are on sale now at Ryman.com and Ticketmaster.com.
Ride that train. It's midnight up in Harlem.
Tedeschi Trucks Band. Live. There's more at TedeschiTrucksBand.com. Produced by Sherpa and Square Peg Concerts.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters. You're listening to Music Business Radio.
From Nashville, Tennessee, it's Music Business Radio. I'm your host, David Hooper, and with me today, Kyle Andrews. He's a musician, singer, songwriter. You've heard his music in ads by Holiday Inn, Doritos, Dell Computer. He's got an album, Robot Learn Love, available wherever records are sold. And this is an album you independently released.
That's correct.
You didn't have to do that, though. You got labels knocking down your door, man. What's going on?
I guess that independent thing, just being that my process has always been, it's just me sitting in there recording. I don't have someone else dictating, when it's got to be finished and when it should come out. I'm just so used to that, that the freedom.
Like an only child, right?
Yeah, I mean, the freedom of that is, I don't know, at this point, it's just something I'm so accustomed to, that the idea that it would be on someone else's schedule or relying on someone else's budget or someone else's enthusiasm even is, to me as an artist, is just kind of terrifying.
Well, we talked a little about that before the show in terms of recording in what we call a professional studio versus a home studio. And, you got that clock ticking, you got people on staff and
right.
the catering guys there or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I think to truly be in a situation like that where you wouldn't be conscious of any of that pressure, you have to be an established artist that's just not worried about the money at all, or I don't know what that would take for me to just forget about all that stuff. But, ideally, like I want to have there be nothing between me and the song and the music and that creative process.
One of the things I think is really cool, too, is when you're doing something yourself, you can also keep the budget low. It seems like sometimes they get really overinflated when you bring a label in there because you're paying for stuff maybe that you don't need. And I like the idea of going in with just a really limited amount of resources and coming up with something great. The profit is better. It's just kind of maybe a challenge to get the best album you can out of the least amount of money even.
I mean, this day and age, it's like, with the home recording stuff, it really is just like such a boom, and it's the golden age of recording at home. There's so many fun programs to mess with, and I've always invested in home studio stuff, but it really doesn't take much. It just takes your own time and dedication to getting as good as you can.
Give us a basic setup. Like if somebody wants to record something at home, what kind of stuff would they need? Maybe $5,000, would that do it?
Yeah, well, if you've got a computer, I record on like a laptop, and I've got Logic is what I did the last record on. So, just with that and a mic and a preamp, you'd be under that amount. I've had things used that I've recorded on setups that kind of simplified. So, the recording part, that's just a start. Like the promotion and everything is making videos. Like that's where your, costs can really stack up. Or going on tour, like paying for gas and all that is, for me, much more expensive than actually making music.
Well, let's dig into the video thing just a little bit, because you've got some fantastic videos. And if you go to YouTube and search for Kyle Andrews, you'll see them. Some of them are scripted. Some of them are live. We talked about like the world's largest water balloon fight,
right,
which is an incredible video. Do you have a typical budget? Do you have somebody like storyboard it, or do you just go in there and try to shoot yourself live maybe? I love the dancing one, by the way.
Yeah, well, you're just trying to be creative with friends and come up with something that might be interesting to watch. The dancing one, it was like I wanted to have 4 different videos and that you could pick your dance partner, and it's kind of just like sort of virtual reality sort of thing. It's on a pretty tight budget. I mean, to rent a decent camera and get somebody that actually knows what they're doing with it, it costs a bit of money. It's a bit of investment, but it's still, I mean, relative to like what anybody else's like video budget would be, I mean, it's a fraction of that.
Throw out some numbers. If somebody were just on a real tight budget, what would it take for them to get a pretty cool video?
Here in town, like if you need to hire somebody to, like, you don't have any gear whatsoever, like I would say my budget for this was maybe a couple $1,000s per video we did. And that's people being there just one day and just getting everything done as fast as you possibly can.
So planning, I imagine, would be paramount.
Yeah, it probably should have been.
Could have done in half a day, maybe.
But like for the laser tag, Imaginary Friends, we ran around town just grabbing shots. Like there's some shots on the Metro bus, and we wanted to get this shot from the bus, them on the bus, and catching me as they drive by. We kept missing it, and I would have to jump in my car and go 2 stops up and get out. And just
buses don't run that often in Nashville.
Oh,
You're probably waiting for a bit.
Yeah. And then stand in that spot and hope that they catch the right shot. Which is, I mean, it was a lot of fun, and it was shoestring, but it was also, you know, in Nashville, you've got musicians that love making records. You've got people that love making videos.
Well, you know what I think is really cool about something like you just said? If you were taking like behind the scenes footage, then you've got even more videos to put up there because people love a story, and it really is interesting. I mean, everybody's seen the bigwig type videos and this behind the video MTV type stuff, but how it's really done makes it interesting.
Sure, yeah.
You're listening to Music Business Radio. I'm David Hooper. Kyle Andrews is my guest today. So when you're recording an album like Robot Learn Love, and you've got the home recording gear like you're talking about, you're good at using it as you are, I imagine it could quickly kind of get away from you to where you're not able to maybe have the same experience live.
Right.
So do you think about that? Because you've obviously got to get out on the road and promote a record. It's not just videos. It's not just recorded elements. You've got to do it live.
Sure. That's been part of the evolution, is learning, okay, well, how do you take the studio sound and present something that's at least similar in some way or in the spirit while performing live. That's something I feel like, you know, I was conscious of while finishing this record. You know, I wanted the album to be cohesive and then also the stage performance to be as well. But again, I mean, you know, with technology, I basically take the studio onto stage. I take that laptop on stage. You know, we've got our band, and then we've got 4 more imaginary guys that I was pretending to be while recording, playing with us as well.
So you've got triggers or background recordings or something that you can add to the sound?
Yeah, it's all interwoven, and it'd probably be kind of difficult from an outsider to look and know exactly who was doing what thing. But you got to take that studio and take that headphone experience and make it a show. So, you know, we do the lights, and it's just another way of being creative. And it's not just the technology. Living in Nashville, there's so many good musicians that, you know, I can go on tour, and depending on what different people's schedules are, take out a different drummer or take out a different bass player, and they're just really, really good players. So definitely lucky to live in a town like that, to have access to such great musicians.
How important is touring when it comes to making a living, selling albums, getting the word out about your music?
It's definitely important. I mean, this year for the record, we went pretty much everywhere in the U.S., which I've done touring before. I did the 10 out of 10, and I've done other independent tours. And this was my first time hitting pretty much every major market. And, you know, it's a challenge.
Yeah, the U.S. is big.
Yeah, well, it's pretty vast. I mean, we did lots of 18-hour drives and just kind of overnight thing. I mean, we did a drive from Dallas into, I want to say it was Tucson. But we basically drove overnight. Like, we unloaded from the gig, drove all night through the desert, got to the gig, unloaded, and played.
Right. It's a long day.
Which is just not... It's fun. It's something you look back on and you're like, well, that was cool. That was a neat experience. But,
yeah.
You know, at the same time, for me, it's more fun to be at home and making a new song and recording.
What do you think about what's happening to the music industry now? Because recorded music, you know, sales are down. Live show is something that can't be pirated. So what is that going to be like for somebody like yourself that likes to record and prefers that over hitting the road and doing those 18-hour drives?
Well, I guess the issue is that being on the road is expensive. So just, I mean, on a purely like business level, it's more efficient for me to be at home and recording. It's so much fun to go and play in front of people. So they just kind of have to feed each other in a way. I mean, I guess the model now is, people have access to music. Like if you want to hear a song by anybody right now, like you can find it, listen to it for free. So, I mean, I think it's just about muscling through and just, playing as much as you can, making as much music as you can, and being as creative in the presentation of it. And just, I mean, there's a way to survive and make a living if you're pushing on all fronts. But yeah, I mean, you have to feed it. Like with the touring, you have to do that so that there's some sense of relevance and people know who you are. I mean, it's not just going to pop up on TV on its own. That's part of getting out there and putting yourself out there.
So you are a producer, a songwriter, a musician. You're probably your booking agent, booking these shows. You're doing all sorts of stuff. I'm going to make you play A&R guy when we come back. We've got a section of the show. We call it Dave's Demo Derbies from bands around the world. They send us records. We got a big box of demos here in between us. We're going to reach into the demo bag, pull out a CD, play it, and we'll have you critique them.
Okay.
So Kyle Andrews plays A&R when we come back on Music Business Radio.
This is Mayor Carl Dean, and you're listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz.
You're listening to Music Business Radio on the web at musicbusinessradio.com.
The 2012 Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival lineup has been announced. Get a preview of your favorite artists they'll be performing with the exclusive Bonnaroo lineup playlist, only on Spotify. Maximize your player now and click on the banner. The Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival, June 7th through 10th in Manchester, Tennessee. Tickets available now at Bonnaroo.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Todd Rundgren, and you're listening to Music Business Radio.
From Nashville, Tennessee, it's Music Business Radio. I'm David Hooper, your host. With me today, Kyle Andrews, musician, singer, songwriter, and now A&R, because it's time for Dave's Demo Derby. This is that part of the show where we take demos from around the world. Kyle Andrews is here, and in between us, a big box of records, CDs, cassettes, pictures, press releases, just whatever people want to send in. And if you want to send something in to us, check us out online at musicbusinessradio.com. Kyle, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Artist is called Skytown Riot, and the song The Only Winter I Remember out of Knoxville, Tennessee, Skytown Riot on Music Business Radio.
Silent as the snow swirling round my feet. I just want you to know, cold enough to fall, still too warm to freeze. You're everything I want. Desperation found its way inside my mind when I thought you had what I needed. Basically, I found out what you meant to me. That's when I told you I'd never leave.
Skytown Riot on Music Business Radio Demo Derby. The song The Only Winter I Remember. Kyle Andrews, what do you think about that?
Man, I dig it. I was talking earlier, just kind of growing up, like first getting into music during that kind of early 90s grunge heyday, and it definitely kind of calls back to a bit of that stuff. I'd be curious to see like what that recording process is like for them, if they do it on their own or if they're in a studio. But yeah, I mean, to me, it sounds real good.
Those guys are out of Knoxville, Tennessee. It's probably a medium-sized city, maybe a couple 100,000 people. Those are the places that you're hitting when you go out and...
Yeah, I've been to Knoxville a couple of times. Yeah, it's usually a good time.
College town, UT, University of Tennessee, home of the 1982 World's Fair. Next up, out of Brooklyn, New York, Lisa Jaggy, the song Imperial Science.
It's a miracle, empirical science at its best, a gentle stirring, awakened by the sound, pouring out like power, spreading to the ground. And from the fake friends of those that came before, claiming to a love and loss as if there was a war based on the pretense of a pair of sympathetic heart's reaction, rise overrun, a negative infraction. And I resign to the birds between my arms, a funny feeling, tiptoe across the floor. But I don't hold back anymore, since feeling is first. Then time to time make moments work, and I resign, 'cause now I know just what it feels like. I got a problem picking up the general gist of his proof. Either you take it or you leave it, like the rest of us do. And I'll be perfect in a month, I got a few things to lose. Purchase power, sort and scour, find a way to abuse. But I'm moving up in a filthy metropolis to get a few things out. As long as I keep on top of it, but it always thin to the bones you're living in. The faces you forget, and no wonder it's a sin. This is the last time, but last time is the last time, and the next time will be the first time. Tell myself the worst line I could ever
Lisa
say.
Jaggy out of Brooklyn, New York, the song Empirical Science. Kyle, what do you think about that?
Man, I like that. And she's got this packaging here and the artwork. She's done all these drawings that it kind of sets the mood for the tune. Super laid back, like it's almost like a female Jack Johnson sort of sound.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
I dig it. I'd be interested to hear more songs and hear. For myself as an artist, I'm much more simple, like lyrically, and just much less words. So I'd be curious to hear more songs, and if that rhythm is continued, if that's sort of like a constant thing, or if there's variety.
That's what stood out to me. First of all, the voice, but her phrasing was certainly unique.
Mm-hmm.
Not simple, but it's cool.
I think it's well done. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all in pocket and like
Absolutely.
really well. So.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, I was like, I wonder if she could pull this off live.
Be good to know.
I like the glockenspiel too on the second verse.
Yeah, I mean, it all sounds really personal and just kind of like everyone's sitting in your living room playing for you, but it's good. So
Next up, out of New York, New York, Tony DiMattia, the song Anything.
To go, I bought a one-way ticket to reach my destiny. I had so many struggles there on the way down the winding roads of yesterday, but I never looked back. I knew it had to be. They say all the world it is a stage, and in my life I must have played 1,000 roles, but this one's for me.
Tony DiMattia on Music Business Radio out of New York, New York. The song Anything. Fizzband.com. F-I-Z is the website. What about it, Kyle?
I like the sort of the inspirational element of the tune. Just kind of like, I try to do that some myself. Just sometimes you need a song that's just gonna, be encouraging and keep you going. And so I definitely like that element. To me, I mean, this very much sounds like it was done in like a proper studio, and it's just kind of got that glossier sound.
It's polished.
So, I mean, it's definitely like well done. I tend to gravitate to stuff that's maybe a little more personal sounding, maybe a little more intimate.
Yeah, I was thinking this is kind of like an arena rocker.
Which can be great, but, you got to have that song that matches that sound, and it's really tough to. I mean, if it was easy to do, people would do that all the time. Just write this massive.
No doubt.
Yeah, I would say maybe try to make it more personal sounding. I like the idea of the song, but it's almost kind of underneath all that polish.
Next up, out of Australia, this is the Jade Diary, the song What She Wants.
She looks like a star in a magazine, dressed to the nines in a movie scene. Diamonds and stars dripping in your eyes while she sways. She leaves a trail behind, crimson colored crimes. Watch out, all you in her way. She will take what she wants today, and she knows what it is to be loved. I've seen her succumb and compromise to the pressures of serving her desires. Lips are to fish painted burgundy. Seduction is a symphony. She leaves a trail behind of intoxicating crimes. Watch out, all you in her way. She will take
The Jade Diary on Music Business Radio Demo Derby, the song What She Wants. They are out of Perth, Western Australia, and available at jadediary.com. How about it, Kyle?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, similar to that first track we heard, there's almost like this kind of retro callback to like early 90s sort of sound, like almost like the Cranberries. But, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess like my perspective is always going to be kind of skewed to like, you know, reading the liner notes and being like, oh, they were in this studio and that studio. And I feel like they'd be well served to just kind of experiment more at home, even if they then later went into a studio, but just to kind of stretch the bounds of their personality there.
You know, that's one of the cool things about home studios is it lets you just kind of fool around.
Yeah.
And there's not that pressure. We talked a bit about the storyboarding of your videos, kind of planning them out ahead of time.
Right.
And it's nice to kind of have, if you go into the studio, some kind of a reference point, even if it's no good. Say, listen, I don't want it to be like what I just recorded at home.
Sure. Yeah. Well, just, I mean, you got to be able to fail and not be any, just have that luxury of trying stuff out that turns out maybe you wouldn't want someone to hear like this version of it. But yeah, it's just a step on the road to finding that your own sound.
Do you have songs like that now that, you know, maybe they were great for when you released them 5 or 10 years ago and now you're like, ugh, you just kind of cringe?
I mean, it happens when you see a picture of yourself from like 10 years ago. You're like, whoa, okay, that's what I was wearing, or that's, you know. I mean, it's just what people do. Perspective is such a strange thing like that. Yeah, I do that. And depending on how, you know, how I'm feeling, I'll look at something and be like, yeah, that was really good, or hey, that just wasn't really cutting it. But that's part of the process of growing and improving.
What about like knowing your audience? Because like you, your audience is also going through stages and trends in their lives. Do you write to them at all?
I guess I've always worked under the assumption, true or not, that, you know, if I could get a song to the point where I really enjoyed listening to it, that I don't feel like my tastes are so specific or unique to the world. Like, there's got to be somebody else out there that would like it, you know? So I've used that as my compass and just kind of trusted that if I follow through in the way I have, that there'll be some people there listening.
So you're not worried about demographics so much as maybe some people would be?
Well, I mean, it helps to know. The song You Always Make Me Smile was super sunshine and happy, and the video was just very lighthearted and fun. The next record, Robot Learn Love, is a contrast to that and very much different sound. Has some darker elements and tones. So there was a certain amount of consciousness of thinking, okay, well, are those people going to make a transition? Are they interested in seeing that other side? And it, you know, Different people have different tastes. So, like, some people did make that transition and enjoy the new sounds, and others, you know, they just want to hear something sunnier. So
you've got new people coming in too.
Yeah. So I don't worry about it too much. My next record, which will be a death metal album, I do have some concerns about, but
you could isolate a few people. Well, you don't have any demos from the death metal album with you, but you do have some other music, and we're going to play one before we go out. So I'm going to let you pick.
One song that, you know, I was hoping would help people in that transition is Heart You Forever. It's just kind of in that more romantic, kind of lighthearted, breezy.
And another great video.
Essence. Yeah, that's the last video we did. Had a lot of fun doing it here in Nashville.
Yeah, it's very cool. So everybody, Kyle Andrews on YouTube, check out all the videos, because I think each one of them is unique, but it has that kind of glue. They're cohesive, you know, kind of like an Iron Maiden cover, right? You know what you're going to get, even though they all look different. You know it's from Iron Maiden, and
right.
Very similar to that, your videos. So Kyle, thank you very much. And people can find you. I've been plugging YouTube, but you've got your own site.
Yeah, it's just KyleAndrews.com. You know, anything you want to find from me is over there. So come on by.
So we are going to go out with Heart You Forever off the album Robot Learn Love. Kyle Andrews on Music Business Radio.
Thanks for listening to Music Business Radio, a production of Tuned In Broadcasting Incorporated, Nashville, Tennessee. Recorded in the WRLT Lightning 100 studios. Music Business Radio is produced by Gary Crane, David Hooper, and Dan Buckley. Hosted by David Hooper. Engineered by Dan Buckley. Demo Derby coordination by Gary Crane and Jesse Smith. Special technical assistance by Tom Hansen. With Pro Tools post-production by Justin Hamill and Dan Buckley. And Lester bought it on eBay. For information on syndication, guest booking, demo derby music, or downloading previous episodes, visit musicbusinessradio.com.
Music Business Radio.